These morning texts are just perfect for Father's Day, don't you think? These are rough readings. This idea of the destruction of the family, or this sense of animosity between generations and those who are closest to us, seems like something that we should save for another day. And you're probably wondering, why in the world did Pastor Matt choose these readings for this day? And again, I will remind you, Pastor Matt did not choose these readings. These readings are assigned to the Sunday, and I think it's good for us to wrestle with these challenging readings. When we hear the text for today, I think what I want us to wrestle with is this idea of comfort. There is a lot of the Christian tradition as it is practiced today that is about the idea of bringing peace to oneself, the idea that there is a spiritual closeness to Christ, and that brings a peace to everything. And in fact, we often get very anxious when there are disruptions to that, when there is anxiety, when we say things about our faith that maybe create some disruption within our relationships. But in these days, I don't know that those are all of the things that bring disruption. I remember a couple of cycles ago at our national youth gathering, Shane Claiborne, who is a noted evangelical, had been speaking to this huge auditorium full of 35,000 Lutherans. And one of the things that he said really stuck with me. The common formula is that my life was a mess, and then I came to know Christ, and I found peace, and everything came together for me. But Shane turned that on its ear. What he said to us, I think, was significant. He said, my life was fine until Christ came in and wrecked it. Now, we don't like that image, but as we are in the second half of the liturgical year, where all of the readings are challenging to us, we are mindful that even 2,000 years later, Jesus speaks to us in a way that does not bring comfort, but rather pokes and challenges us to change our worldview, to speak out on behalf of those, as we heard in last Sunday's reading, those who were helpless and harassed. Now that gets us into all kinds of things, doesn't it? We don't like that kind of stress within our families, within our friend sets, within our neighborhoods. We're looking at all of these different aspects and just trying to figure out how everybody can get along, right? And it feels like in the last several weeks, that's been particularly the case in the wake of the killing of George Floyd. This image of peace, of can't we get along? Let's get all on the same page. However, over the last several years, I don't know that it is religion dividing us so much as politics, right? Think back to this last Thanksgiving, to all of the pleasant conversations you had around the table about politics, right? We are aggressively sorting ourselves into teams so that we might beat down the other. And in fact, we are organizing our entire lives around these political groupings and teams. In fact, we are scrutinizing what pastors are saying across the nation to see if that fits with our political and economic worldviews. Or perhaps I need to find a church where Jesus speaks more like the political leaders that I admire, right? This isn't a particularly new thing. This is something that we've wrestled with for years and years, if not all of time. But it certainly feels a bit more pointed in these days. This image that suddenly everything has to be put into service of our political worldview. In that universe, Jesus is a Democrat, or Jesus is a Republican, or Jesus is only about political things, or Jesus is never about political things. And my gut feeling is that God is not really registered to vote in the same way that we are. That God cares about society and our systems in a way that has political ramifications. Things that kind of stress us out. But Jesus is always pushing us in ways that makes us feel uncomfortable. In fact, I would argue that if we ever get to a point where we go to bed at night with the sense that Jesus is in my corner and loves all the things that I love and hates all the things that I hate, by definition, we have created God in our own image. As we think of the readings today, when we speak God's truth, there is going to be discomfort in the circles in which we travel, with family and friends, with the culture around us as we say, hey, wait, that's not just. But one of the things that I think the reading falls a little short on is that I think that stress and distance and tension within relationships is something that happens to us as individuals as well. When we get to a point where we can read the Gospels and somehow, through some kind of intellectual gymnastics, have figured out that we are 100% aligned with Jesus, we need to go back and read it again, because his words continue to push and challenge and bring discomfort to us. When we think of the readings that we have for this day, I think there's a couple of things that we need to be reminded of. Jesus brings good news to us about new life in this world, particularly for those who are helpless and harassed, and those who are most close or closest to systems that benefit them. Perhaps people like me, perhaps people like you, are the ones for whom Jesus makes the most uncomfortable. And so there is work that we need to be doing in our own hearts, even as we do work in the world around us to bend it towards God's will. As you go about your week, think about that discomfort. Think about God's work in that discomfort and how we might reflect on our own hearts, even as we act in the world around us, bringing life and hope to those who are most hurting. Jesus is challenging us to bear our cross, to follow him, recognizing that in following, we go on the Lord's path, not on the comfy path that we want to stay on. So I would encourage you to reflect on those. Understand how God is calling you to change your path and how to walk on the path that is being shown to you. Amen.